65 is New England's newest live music and events venue. If you're not completely enjoying your current live music experience, there is another option. Manchester 65 is large enough to support touring acts, yet small enough for that local feel. For upcoming events, go to manchester65.com. Make it your place. manchester65.com. Good evening, my name is Tony Jones, and you are tuned in to The Coalition, where we discuss all sides of local, regional, and national news, politics, and current events. With me in studio is the P.O. taxpayer. P.O., good evening.
Hey now.
Chris is here. Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Tony.
Always a pleasure to be here with you guys. Don't forget to check out coalitionradio.us, which is sponsored by Manchester 65. For all the upcoming events, go to manchester65.com. That's manchester65.com. The lights are low in the studio this evening because I was at Manchester 65 last night supporting some young and upcoming bands, and it was a full house at the Manchester last night, P.O.
Well, I thought you were going to say you were also supporting our local brewery.
That's for sure.
Can we throw in an unsolicited plug for that fine institution? Hey, neighbor?
At one point, does this show just turn into an intervention for me?
I think this is a group intervention.
Yeah, we can do that at any time, actually.
And fortunately, we do have one adult in the room, Christine.
I really have. I just want everybody to know, because we joke a lot, I have slowed down a little bit in my old age, so.
Well, I think you'd need to.
Getting ready for marriage? Tony, as usual, it was an adventurous week here in Little Rhodey. I'm not quite sure where to begin. Let's talk about the Providence Journal. That archetype of civility.
The incredible shrinking newspaper?
The incredible shrinking newspaper, the fish wrap. Tony, I guess the mountains have spoken. The words came down from Ohio about their marijuana, the Mary Jane, the chronic. What saith the Providence Journal?
Providence Journal says, and I quote, "Get off the pot."
Get off the pot. And this is a remarkable departure, because wasn't it just this past week that our governor, Lincoln Chafee, decided that pot for potholes was the new mantra of the state of Rhode Island?
I like that, because I would like to see the potholes fixed.
And I would like to see pot.
Yeah.
So
here we go.
It sounds all good. I mean, where all of a sudden we find ourselves in common ground with the missing link?
I had the complete opposite yesterday of the Providence Journal. I don't think they're looking at, as they spiral into irrelevancy, the amount of advertising dollar that they could raise. So yesterday I went into a head shop and they said, "Hey, aren't you Tony Jones?" And I said, "Depends who's asking."
Well, you were there for journalistic purposes only, of course.
And you asked, "Are you a process server?"
I always put on my press pass before I go into a head shop. But
that's a good plan.
No, they said, "Aren't you Tony Jones?" I said, "Yes, I am." They said, we caught the show last week, and they really liked Jared Moffat's spot, and they really liked what we had to say, what Regulate Rhode Island had to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, I talked to them a little bit about possibly advertising with us and advertising with Rhode Island Free Radio, and the Journal should be looking at the amount of head shops and dispensaries and things of that nature to, maybe get some more people on the payroll. Maybe they could get some of their old layoffs back into the newspaper and actually have some content.
Well, also, I'm trying to figure out who the Journal thinks is reading its opinions.
Well, I think that's exactly it. The people who are reading their opinions are
the pearl clutchers,
the old people, and what about the children?
Exactly. What about the children?
Well, here's again the fallacies. I mean, first off, they talk about encouraging the use of marijuana. Newsflash: anyone who wants to smoke pot is doing it. In fact, right now, at thousands of homes across Rhode Island, particularly if they have to listen to this show, people are smoking pot. And you know what? God bless you. Don't bogart that joint, my friend. All right?
Right. And by people, we mean people through the
all
whole
walks of life.
Exactly. It's full cross-section.
Right.
The ones who get caught are the ones who have the stereotypical, quote, look of potheads.
Exactly.
Like your average soccer mom is lighting up with her friends. She's not only drinking white wine in the afternoon with her friends, she's probably having a little pot.
Hey, if I had to sit through one of those awful kindergarten soccer games,
Oh,
I'd be
God.
rolling a doobie too.
Listen,
I stand in solidarity with soccer moms.
And it's a lot more healthy for you than Mother's Little Helpers were. So,
well, and unless you're running a left-wing blog, I mean, there's absolutely no danger of them getting caught.
Right.
But let's, again, the children. Kids who want to smoke pot are smoking pot.
Yes, they're already doing it. Kids who want to drink alcohol, they're drinking alcohol.
Right.
And in fact, drinking alcohol in your teen years may be worse for you significantly in terms of brain development than smoking pot.
Look at me.
Yeah. Look at Tony Jones, the poster for brain damage.
And yet this is, to me, a far bigger danger to this state, both economically, in terms of the fabric of the family, is this incredible assault on gambling that we have in this state. And I don't see the Journal taking the high road and saying to Twin River, no, while you're still in business this state, before Massachusetts drives you into bankruptcy, all right, we won't take your ads.
Could that be that because exactly as you speak on, the Life Beat section has a full-page ad that says, "Take me to the river."
I always think of that singing fish. Wasn't there a singing fish that sang that?
Listen, as far as the deadbeat section goes, that's about all that they're ever going to have.
I don't know. I love me some Dilbert.
It's a sad day when the whole the main point of reading the newspaper is to read Dilbert.
What is Dilbert up to this week?
Go to gocomics.com and find out.
Right.
And there you go. That's the last reason to have the Journal.
I honestly don't remember what the Journal's ads were back in the pre-casino days.
There's really nothing left unless you're advertising for Lifespan, any number of in-season festivities going over on the island.
PPAC.
PPAC, thank you.
PPAC is a huge advertiser for them. Trinity to some extent.
Right.
A handful of the performing arts, and other than that, Cardis.
There are the Cardi brothers.
There's the car section.
Which is the incredible shrink. As someone who works in the car business.
Yeah, exactly.
No one in the car business, no one cares about print anymore.
No, it's all cable ads.
It's cable ads and it's internet. Print advertising is officially dead. And you didn't need my pronouncement to do that. Look at the Globe, which used to have 3 sections of car ads.
Right, now it's probably half of one.
But to get back to the safety issue, the Journal talks about the safety of the children. Ultimately, folks, and tell me if I'm wrong, a regulated FDA-style approval process on the production of marijuana will result in a far safer supply for the citizenry and at the same time eliminate the type of nefarious, gang-like intervention in the market.
Agreed.
There's a reason why we did away with prohibition.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Do we want teenagers making moonshine and going blind?
Right, and so as synthetic marijuana...
that's my what about the children stand.
Yeah.
What about the children?
Well, I mean...
I'm clutching my pearls right now, thinking about the children and smoking bad weed when they could be smoking regulated...
Is this your white pearls right before you go to the garden party tonight?
Yes, that's right.
Are you part of the Junior Women's League?
The Junior League.
The Junior League, I don't know.
I don't think they'll let me in.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are.
I'm not going to pass the background check when they find out who I associate with.
Did you have a coming out event?
No.
If you watched Downton Abbey last week...
I'm not Southern enough or classy enough to have had one of those.
Oh, okay. But there's got to be an equivalent Rhode Island style.
Oh, I didn't grow up here. There may be.
Okay.
There must be something at the Venus de Milo.
Or in Foster.
Or in Foster, yeah.
Well, the great thing about the Providence Journal editorial is by just discussing it on our station, probably we've doubled the audience's exposure to it. Because they are irrelevant and they don't mean anything except to a few select folks in the power
I'm wondering,
league.
Are they writing editorials specifically to appeal to the people who are still reading them?
Probably.
It has to be.
Are we going to have other disgruntled crank editorials coming up?
Because
editorial, you kids get off my lawn.
Editorial, I'm keeping this baseball. And if you talk to Todd Giroux, who we've had in studio, he will tell you that the Providence Journal flat out told him we do not want to tackle anything to do with any kind of foreclosure reform because you will see in the quote-unquote business section pages and pages of foreclosure notices. They're raking it in.
But
they would still make money on foreclosure notices. They would just make it. The timing would be different because homes are still going to be foreclosed on.
Well,
it's just going to give some of those people a bit more time.
Well, there was an act before the State House, and it probably died an untimely death because of this, that would render those ads irrelevant and allow people to report them on the internet. those type of legal notices. And
right.
I'm sure at this point the Journal
I'm sure the Journal is probably the biggest lobbyist against that.
Right. The Journal makes money off of foreclosure notices and obits. Okay? That's it. There's nothing else really left other than the Cardi brothers.
Yeah.
So you got your Cardi brothers, you got your obituaries, and you got your foreclosures.
Oh, I forgot Showcase Cinemas.
For now.
Yeah, for now. And that's irrelevant, too, because if you want to know what's playing at the movie theater, you can call their hotline and go on the internet.
Or you can go on our friend's application, Providence Night Out.
That's right, Providence Night Out.
And so rendering again.
Yeah.
Them even further useless.
I would love to see Providence Night Out put the Providence Journal out of business.
It's cool, too, because you have seen these. I was at an event on Thursday where our friends at 13 Folds were putting out their newest magazine, and it's just a fantastic. This isn't just because I like the guys, because if I didn't, I would still say it's a fantastic magazine. It's a little niche, but it is awesome to see as the traditional media goes into irrelevancy, the independent media really filling the void and putting out quality publications.
Well, you talk about irrelevancy. If you notice, the state of Rhode Island did not become buckled over with grief at the notice of James Taracani's resignation, all right, or his retirement. I'm sorry, did I mix that up? Does really anyone care? I mean, they would trot out Jim Taracani once a year or once or twice a year during sweeps to come out with some sort of after-the-fact investigating and reporting on something incredibly irrelevant that had no shelf life and resulted in no criminal prosecution from our milk carton attorney general. So he retires.
Do you mean the Florida attorney general?
Yes, the attorney general for the state of Florida. And you think back when Doug the Rug retired or Salty retired, the entire state went through this collective nervous breakdown. Jim Taracani's been a fabric of the local media now for 30 years. Survived Buddy, a heart transplant, and literally, what's her name, Julie Tremmel, survived all of that and retired to a collective.
Survived being in the can.
Did it strike anybody else as odd that he retired immediately after the Julie Tremmel incident?
It has occurred to some.
It struck me odd that he retired immediately after they announced that those mobsters would be having their parole in a few weeks' time.
So maybe he's now in the Witness Protection Program?
He might be.
Well, listen, since we represent the collective effort of, I'll call it Rhode Island's Oprah, maybe we should arrange for Mr. Taracani to have a sit-down. Maybe they could shake hands. Maybe they could have a group hug here on the show.
Maybe they could. Well, I suspect part of the reason there wasn't a lot of hoopla was because the station decided not to milk it.
Well,
when Salty Brine retired, when Doug White retired, it wasn't. I don't really genuinely believe it was the public who were whipped into a frenzy about it.
Right, but here you have a guy.
I think the stations themselves whipped that up, and I think for whatever reason, Taracani's station decided not to do that. So that's another reason why I suspect the timing is awfully coincidental.
I was hoping they were going to let him read the first birthdays.
Hand out mugs in the morning with Frank Colella. Is Frank Colella still on the air?
I don't know. I don't get up that early.
Oh, okay, true. Speaking of bad weeks, our friends at Go Local Prov have a who's hot and who's not. So I'm just wondering.
Which side were you on this week?
They don't talk about us.
Okay.
We give them plugs.
Not yet.
No plugs back. So I'm just wondering if the folks at Twin River are on the who's hot or who's not list.
Well, they have to be on the who's hot because when you log on to Go Local Prov, there is a guy who looks like Ken Block that's running for governor throwing craps. It's the first ad you see.
Oh, interesting.
And they did nominate their CEO, or actually list their CEO as their man of the year, which in retrospect I objected to strenuously at the time. But what appears now, in retrospect, retroactively, if you will, to have been a move of genius. We talked about this on the show a few months ago. The fine folks at Twin River recently purchased a casino in Mississippi. So now this week you have the announcement that the Plain Ridge Trotter Track, and it takes a special kind of craven degenerate gambler to hang out with the ponies. Right. If you're listening, Russ, I didn't mean you. All right. But there's a special kind of gambler that plays the trifecta on a horse pulling a surrey that was outmoded in the 19th century. I still think when I think of gambling, I think of Beat the Wabbit from Bugs Bunny. I mean, so you've got the equivalent of Beat the Wabbit going on there, and now in a move of Chris, I had tears of joy.
I can well imagine.
It just...
I know exactly what you're going to say. I saw the article and thought, P.O. is jumping up and down.
I'm verklempt.
Yes. He's like a little boy at Christmas over this report.
Those Meshuggahs at the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, or however they call themselves, are my new heroes. Because an act of just sheer genius, they managed to locate, now I lived up to that area, from about 7 miles, if that, from the Rhode Island border, the equivalent of a financial neutron bomb. We're talking about probably almost $1 billion in physical investment in a slots parlor, because how do we sell it in Rhode Island? Slots parlor, Parlah. All right there on the border, I guess a mere 22 miles from where I'm going to set up my new business, which is bus trips to Plainridge from Lincoln.
All right, there you go.
Announcing it right now. I'm going to do everything because I am the self-appointed Rhode Island Director of Uneconomic Development. All right.
Why don't we just put a video slot terminal at the end of every street, like a phone booth? Because that way, if you're itching for some video slots and you don't want to go all the way to Plainridge or Lincoln, you feel this urgent need to lose money that you can't afford to lose.
Right,
you can just duck into an old school phone booth and put your quarters in it and lose your money and go home, and you don't even have to take a bus home.
If any friends of Senator Lou Raptakis are listening, please don't tell him that. That was a sarcastic suggestion.
Yes, it was. It was a modest proposal.
And in a true Rhode Island legislative fashion, he'll go, "Yeah, that's a ticket. We could do that." All right, because he, not the brightest bulb.
Right.
But stick to the pizza, Lou. Or actually, from what I've heard,
stick it screaming at your employees.
Exactly. So here you have this $1 billion. It looks like something out of Star Trek being just dropped down. It's at the folks. If you need to know where it is and start making your plans, it's at the intersection of 95 and 495.
Perfect.
Just about a mile or two in from 95. Easy access. When it actually opens, we will be there. We're actually going to probably give free commercial time to them just to promote them. Okay.
I think we should do a live broadcast.
I think you're right too. I mean, they are my heroes, and so what I've always dreamed of is the Rhode Island Trinity. To me, the Rhode Island Trinity is us paying the full bond on the 38 special, which we're in the process of doing. Baby.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Number 2, some level of casino gambling competition to suck the lifeblood out of the state of Rhode Island government. The only thing left, and I'm just begging, please, Deval Patrick, if you're listening, lower the sales tax. All right, please, for the love of God, lower the sales tax, because that's, at this point, the conservative estimate is over a 5-year period, the state of Rhode Island, I'm going to cry, is going to lose somewhere in excess of $400 million in revenue.
Put your pinky up to your mouth when you say that.
Yes.
That's just fab. And let's put $400 million into human terms, if you can use that when discussing Rhode Island government. We're talking, and by the way, one of my minor dreams came true, which was an adjustment on the pension reform. So that's a couple of $100 million added to the tax. So this has been literally...
and at the same time, they adjusted the unemployment rate also.
Well, this has been $1 billion a month. It frankly, it doesn't get better than that.
You get to use the B word.
That giant sucking sound you hear, all right, is the financial future of the state of Rhode Island right into the toilet. And just think of the hack jobs, because, it's sort of like those commercials. Those older of us folks, Tony, we're treated to. For just 22 cents a day, you can feed a Rhode Island state legislator. That's what I see coming.
They're the ones who should not be fed, the legislators.
Well, I mean, they are going to be. I'm waiting for the day when a guy like Senator Lou Raptakis or my state representative, Lady Macbeth. Please, sir, may I have some more? All right. Well, by the way, Lady Macbeth, in a sheer move of genius this week, introduced legislation where a judge, and in the case of a divorce, would have the ability to dictate things like college tuition payments. Are you kidding me? All right, so that just let me throw that inside.
What? I don't understand.
Somehow, because of and this is events she publicized from the House floor.
She's proud of it.
Yeah, I guess the judge will be able to say to the father of the children, by the way, you have to pay for college. Excuse me? Due process, anyone?
Has that ever worked?
It's beyond breathtaking. It's creepy. There are no boundaries for these lawyers / attorney generals / legislatures in what they're willing to inflict on us. But so the Dumb and Dumbers.
You better hope Mrs. Taxpayer is not listening.
Right.
She may now have her out.
Yeah, well.
She wouldn't be caught dead listening to this program.
Well, with the second coming of, or I should say, the sequel to Dumb and Dumber being filmed right now, all right, we've got issues like that being brought up by Rhode Island legislators. But look at what they're facing down the end of a pipe at. Close, on an estate with an approximately $7 or $8 billion budget, almost 15% of the budget getting wiped out, slashed instantly, and they're in a deficit position to begin with. This could be my dream come true. So I'm encouraging the people at Plain Ridge, please, get up sometime. I'm hoping they're talking about less than a year. I'm hoping they'll get up some type of temporary hall, some type of temporary structure. Get it up and running, folks. If you need some volunteer work, I'll consider this my equivalent of Habitat for Humanity. I will help you build.
Habitat for Inhumanity. That's what we're talking about here.
Right.
So, if you go to Go Local Prov and you take a look at the proposal, it really makes Twin River look like a dump.
Kind of a... Yeah. Kind of looking like a bad, seedy strip club at a broken down Holiday Inn at the end of Route 1 somewhere.
Well, if it looks like something out of Star Trek, you had me at Star Trek.
Well,
I don't gamble, but I'll happily walk around a place that looks like Star Trek.
Well, this is actually being run by a company called Penn National. And you see, unlike the amateur...
Are they based in Mississippi?
They are actually, it's my understanding, I did a little research, they have casino properties or gambling properties in something like 16 to 17 states as well as overseas. Mm-hmm. All right. So you're talking about real executives, not the gang that couldn't shoot straight up from Smith Hill, no refugees from Halitosis Hall. You're talking about people who are professionals. So that not only are you going to have this sort of gateway, because gamblers don't drive by gambling properties to go to other ones. Regardless of table games and all of that. Well, they might
if they're super, super spiffy.
Right, okay.
I could actually picture, because of the novelty of a brand new place, people driving past Twin River to see the new one.
Yeah, beautiful.
I don't see it happening in reverse.
It'd be still my beating heart. I hadn't thought of that.
But the gambling addicts are going to go to the nearest place, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Because they can't afford the gas money to drive further.
Hey, they might even not have police officers kicking people in the back of the head.
Well,
their new casino.
Wow.
When you listen to John Taylor, who's the CEO, I believe, of Twin Rivers, all week long his mantra has been the customer experience. All right. The first thing that came to my mind was that poor woman getting kicked upside the head by a jackbooted thug. All right,
a literal jackbooted thug
on loan from the Lincoln Policia. All right, from the Federales. All right,
that's probably an interesting customer experience for her and for the spectators.
Just so ask her how her is a mild concussion part of it. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. You might feel better with a mild concussion after being at a casino.
You look in your wallet.
Well,
yeah.
Well, and here's the most important part, and this is something I'm going to tout extensively on social media, on emails, on websites. Folks, the payout's going to be better at Penn National.
They're going to have
at least
to.
in the beginning.
Right.
Have to.
Yeah.
No, it's always going to be better. Whether it's not, I'm still going to say it's always going to be better.
Well, my question is, if the CEO of Twin River is such a bright guy, why didn't he think to open a casino?
There was actually legislation in place that doesn't allow them. They essentially signed a non-adjoining state compete.
I see.
Okay. The genius of
which in theory is maybe smarter than in practice, because it basically just means someone else is going to pirate their business.
Right. Well, which is why they bought the facility. My vision 10 years from now, the Twin River Gaming Corporation.
Well, you want to see tumbleweeds blowing through it.
Well,
Yep.
it'll be going tumbleweeds through the 5 to 7 years. The Rhode Island facility, if it's mildly profitable, will still be open. Mm-hmm. All right. But clearly, what they are doing right now is any money, folks, if you go to Twin Rivers to gamble, any money that they make from this ridiculous arrangement with the state of Rhode Island is being invested in properties elsewhere. So 5-7 years out, a couple of properties otherwhere in the country, and it'll be Rhode Island where? Oh, that's right. We've got F Troop down in Lincoln, Rhode Island, still manning the gates there.
Once a place seems stale, good luck revitalizing it.
Well, absolutely.
I'd actually like to see them ditch all the low-level stuff and go for the high-stakes gamblers.
Well,
they'd make less money overall, but they're going to make less money anyway at this point. They're going to lose so much money to the new place in Massachusetts.
Well, there's no place to stay in terms of local hotels. You have to drive a couple miles. There's no resort facilities.
Well, you'd have to do it in Newport.
And Newport wants no part of it. Newport's
already congested enough,
right? And the Newport facility is as good as dead because if you remember, table gaming did not pass there, so they're just a dead man walking. Because on the horizon is the announcement of where they're going to place the other 3 facilities, and there's a very real chance that a facility will also be placed in New Bedford. Now, at that point in time, if they put a facility in New Bedford, I may actually spontaneously combust. All right, just out of sheer joy. The man you see with the Lady Liberty outfit on, handing out brochures on Westminster Street will be me with directions to New Bedford and the other place.
I'm picturing you like the Grinch with your heart going 3 sizes
exactly.
in one day.
Maps to the homes of the stars.
The long and short of it
through
is
the streets throwing daisies and
Rhode Island's port. Huge. All right. More so than they ever, even in my wildest dreams, ever could have imagined.
Now, P.O., as a fellow man of generous proportions, I do want you to remember that there is an all-you-can-eat Kentucky Fried Chicken in Twin River.
Right.
And if that's not a draw, I don't know what is.
And that's all that's going to be left.
But they want to keep people nourished so that they can keep wasting money in slot machines.
What you could see, too, which would be just another black hole, is that the corporation will hold on to it as a loss for tax write-off. So one of the dirty little secrets in traditional radio is that a group will buy a bunch of stations, and then they will keep one small AM station in the toilet as a gigantic tax write-off. They have this one station that's making no money. They're just burning cash, and they use that to offset some of the more successful stations. So we could see Twin River as the tax write-off casino.
Radio stations do that? Also, I mean, wait a minute. You're saying that people inhabit low-rent radio stations at obscure locations with broken signals?
I don't know if you know this, but there are some sleazy people in radio, P.O.
I'm shocked.
And apparently there are sleazy people in the casino industry as well.
No. Seems like a perfect marriage.
I hear tell.
Well, Penn National... And by the way, the state's response to this, okay, this is beautiful. If you're a Ayn Rand conspiracy theorist, like me.
That was last week.
All right. No, like me. All right. There is a federal act right now called the Marketplace Fairness Act. Now, that's right up there with Homeland Security. I mean, it sends shivers up down your spine. So the state is actually counting on a statement from Lincoln Chafee on offsetting this revenue in part from the fact that the geniuses who run our state agree that we should pay sales tax on Internet purchases. Okay? Not understanding that at this point there are so few people in the state capable of making Internet purchases, and there's no money left because after the break we're going to talk about Charlie Tuna, the genius head of Department of Labor Training here in the state of Rhode Island, because we just found out this week, and here's the tease, you bleeped up, you trusted us. Oh, you thought the unemployment rate was going down. It was actually going up. So we have actually, not only do we have the highest rate of unemployment, I think if you square some other states' rates of unemployment, it's higher. Ours is higher. So, we just found out that we have a 9.3% unemployment rate. Oops. So who's left to spend money on Internet fairness? So, sleep tight, Rhode Island. You won't even know what's going to hit you.
We're about halfway through the show, which means we have to take a quick break. Check out coalitionradio.us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. And, of course, on Twitter, @coalition_radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Manchester 65 is New England's newest live music and events venue. If you're not completely enjoying your current live music experience, There is another option. Manchester 65 is large enough to support touring acts, yet small enough for that local feel. For upcoming events, go to manchester65.com. Make it your place. Manchester65.com.
Liberty-loving freedom fighters, join us for Liberty Love Fest 4, an evening of live music, arts, education, and trade. Potluck social with liberty-minded people from New England and beyond. April 5th at St. Joseph's Church Hall in Cumberland, Rhode Island. Details on the web at libertylovefest.org. That's libertylovefest.org.
ProvidenceNightOut.com is a one-stop destination website where you'll discover a comprehensive guide of everything that the Providence area has to offer. Nightlife, entertainment, dining and dancing, community and family events, and so much more. Download the free app called My Night Out. It's ProvidenceNightOut.com.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Jones. You know, when I'm not here yakking about politics, I spin records. That's right, if you like good old-fashioned rock and roll radio the way God intended it to be, then tune in to The Tony Jones Show. The information's online at tonyjones.org. That's tonyjones.org. You are tuned into the Coalition online at coalitionradio.us. The program continues now. P.O. Taxpayer in studio. P.O., good evening.
Hey, good evening.
Chris is here. Chris, good evening.
Good evening.
We are in trouble, as you may have noticed before the break, but let's talk a little bit about unemployment because, as you mentioned, a little readjustment, a little fuzzy math going on.
Yeah, you know, what's astonishing to me is you have the Department of Labor and Training, which is run by, as I call him, Charlie Tuna. Highly compensated individual. Ironically, he's never actually had full-time employment outside of working for the state.
Really?
True that.
Except for the short time in the 80s where they used his forehead as a drive-in movie theater.
He came within a heartbeat of actually being our governor, which in retrospect...
Goal.
I don't know. The Don actually brought us 38 studios, so I'm not sure who gets the booby prize, literally. But what's breathtaking to me is there's this. Every time when the unemployment keeps getting worse and worse, he gets out and we're working really hard. We feel really, really bad about this. Actually, no, Charlie Fogarty, you don't feel bad about it. You kind of like you probably there's a little twinge. But you're employed. You're getting yours. You'll get your pension.
Yeah, I bet he does feel bad in the way most people feel bad for other people.
Well, it's sort of like I think,
and are relieved that it's not them.
Right. I think
feeling bad isn't enough.
No, I think he feels bad in that kind of way. We all feel bad when we watch the Weather Channel and somewhere in Arkansas a trailer park gets ripped out.
Yeah,
that's the kind of bad he feels.
Yeah, it sucks to be them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's this whole within the Rhode Island media. Because there's this cozy in and out relationship between the Rhode Island media and Rhode Island state government to say, well, you know, it's not Charlie's fault the national economy is bad. Yeah, all right, screw that. First of all, the state of Rhode Island Department of Labor and Training is responsible for two items. Number one, first of all, to clear up something, it's really not their gig to make people employed. You know, they do supervise some training programs, which are pretty much useless, waste of money.
That's a problem right there. You know, there are industries that need workers that can't locate here because there are no people here to do those jobs.
Well, as the head of the Rhode Island Manufacturing Association said, the graduating classes of our local high schools are borderline employable.
Right.
But they are responsible for two things. Number one, giving legitimate information regarding the rate of unemployment and the rate of job creation. And number two, maintaining the system that compensates people out of the unemployment insurance fund that people pay into. Mm-hmm. that employers pay into. And pay them on a timely basis. Charlie Fogarty has been an absolute miserable failure at both. Both systems are in a complete state of nervous breakdown. And we find out that one of the most critical metrics that are generated by Rhode Island government has been off by, a 0.5%. Excuse me, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Particularly since it was used, I feel, this is the opinion of me, not station management, but to provide political cover for those people that he's in political bed with. So the sense of outrage should be that they lied to us. Because things like this don't happen, by accident. And the muted response of the state and the muted response of the local media is an indictment of how much in bed they are. All right? Jim Taricani, by the way, we go back to our earlier story, is going to go work with an organization that is got government ties and government contracts for press release. But Diana Kelch, DK Communications. She's the one who got paid six figures for coming up with the I-195 commission name. All right? So it's a cozy little incestuous circle. So meanwhile, unemployment's worse than we thought. All right? And people who are on unemployment take an unconscionable amount of time to get paid.
Right. How
does this man have a job?
Well, it is, if you look at the acronym, we've got DOLT.
All right. This Homer Simpson-esque figure who's in charge of this critical state bureaucracy.
Well, there's no accountability, and that's the problem overall with, I think, governments in general, but our government here in Rhode Island.
Their idea of accountability is to say, we feel bad.
Yeah.
All right. I take full responsibility.
Right.
That's the battle cry of the Rhode Island state middle manager. All right. We take full responsibility. Well, what does that mean? Well, we just feel really bad. Mm-hmm. So structurally, you have a state that no one is coming to, no one cares about, no one will ever, given the operating circumstances under which we live right now, ever want to locate a business. They're simply not coming. And then you have incompetence and stupidity on a grotesque level at the highest levels of state government. Lincoln Chafee has become sort of this kind of comical, hapless figure. And it really doesn't mean much because constitutionally, the Rhode Island governor is pretty weak to begin with. So you could kind of give yourself a head slap and dismiss that as kind of a cruel joke being perpetrated upon the masses of which they have no control. All right, God's full of cruel jokes when it comes to Rhode Island. All right, but ultimately, these people that were put in place, the head of Health and Human Services, who is a Federal Hill connected, former state legislature, who's seems to his only intent in this life right now is to get better office space so he can be in Providence so he can go out to better lunches. You've got this guy who headed DLT. You've got a Department of Transportation that's out of road salt. We're facing down the barrel of another storm. They're out of road salt. They've got 9 people working in public relations, and they're out of road salt.
Those 9 people could be filling potholes.
Those 9 people could be doing something else other than providing him with political cover. Remember, we hired this guy, Lewis, who was the brainchild behind the Big Dig. What did we expect?
That was a great idea.
Let's keep him on because he's.
Let's hire someone. This far over budget, badly built boondoggle, and bring him here.
Right. So
because we're Massachusetts' junior buddy or something.
Or we're a work release program for the politically gifted.
I think that's what it. Well, how do we get people into these offices who aren't already politically connected with their hands in everybody else's pockets?
At this point, you don't. At this point, what you pray for and you do everything you can to stimulate the complete collapse of the Rhode Island cancer called Rhode Island government. That's what you do at this point. Because it should be clear to everyone, that's how the movie's going to end anyway.
Yeah. Well, at some point, if our unemployment level continues to rise, our wages will drop and people will end up building businesses here just because they're here.
But there's so many other structural issues, Chris.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's not any one issue that you can snuff out. No, it's true.
Everything is interrelated.
Right. And witness this week the collective courage of yet another political hack, Jan Malik. Now, Jan Malik, to the uneducated, is the owner of Malik's Liquors in the greater Warren area. Mr. Malik showed great political courage last year in leading the charge to reduce sales tax on beer. Now, for that, Tony and I should be inordinately grateful.
Right.
Except the only reason Mr. Malik did it.
Yeah, it's like, pardon me, we smell your self-interest here.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was exclusively a coincidence. Tony, it was a sheer coincidence.
A coincidence that I happen to be the owner of a liquor store, and I think this is a good idea.
On the border. Right. So just pure coincidence.
Yeah.
So flash forward a year.
Hey, don't let Mr. Raptakis find that out, or else he'll pass a bill that it's mandatory to order a pizza on Friday nights after work.
Well, flash forward a year, and the term beard is often used, and that socially, euphemistically, that means essentially someone who's playing a part. So in order to maintain his tax-fighting creds, Mr. Malik headed up a committee that investigated and utilized, and I think abused, the fine work of our friend Mike Stenhouse in allegedly advocating for an adjustment in the sales tax rate. Okay. Lowering the sales tax or even to a very low level or eliminate it would be the best thing that this state could do. And here's the reason why, Chris. All right, it's the equivalent of break glass, add water, emergency response. Because the one industry that can grow up almost instantly, kind of like a economic chia pet, okay, is retail. You make retail more competitive in the state of Rhode Island, and wonderful things happen. We all buy everything we can out of state. I do it for purely personal purposes, all right? But other people do it because of their pocketbooks, all right, because of the difference in sales tax. So the one move that would show political cojones and show a passion for trying to do something to make things better instantly would be to either generally significantly lower the sales tax or eliminate it completely.
Well, we certainly should not have a higher sales tax than our neighbors. That makes no sense at all.
Right. So
we're not in a position to handle that.
No, and as we like to say on this show, if you were to take a map of retail, you would see that it rings the state of Rhode Island like a bad toilet bowl ring. They're all perched literally, in some cases, hundreds of yards from the border.
Yeah, I mean, I know people, they'll make small purchases within the border.
Right.
But anything big, it's a hop, skip, and a jump over to Seekonk or Attleboro or, there's no reason why anybody has to stay here to shop. We're such a tiny state. So it's only that Rhode Islanders' fear of driving more than 10 minutes that might stop someone.
Which, by the way, there's a Facebook group where you can see your state reps shopping in Massachusetts. But I know if I'm playing a gig and it's going to be in Massachusetts, I will fill up the gas tank while in Mass just to save that extra few bucks.
That white car you see bucking and shaking as it coast into a Massachusetts gas station, that would be our own Tony Jones.
Tony actually has holes cut in the floor so he can run Fred Flintstone style.
I'm painfully cheap. That's what it has to do with. But.
Well, so a year goes by, commission meetings are held, audiovisual aids are used, graphs are displayed. I didn't even know most Rhode Island legislators knew how to read a graph.
Well, I would venture to say that they don't.
Okay. Well, after a stunning 1 year of thorough investigation, guess what conclusion they came up to? Anyone?
What?
Bueller? None. They had no recommendation to make to the state government, Rhode Island, essentially engaging in a 1 year copious quantity of mental masturbation and saying to the state, I could have had a V8.
We should be able to throw cream pies in their faces.
There's a certain term that I can't say on the radio. But it involves people being lined up in a circle. Yeah,
I was thinking that way. The term we're talking about.
And it ain't firing squad.
And that's the problem. We've got, in theory, people should be able to study things and come to conclusions, make recommendations. You have one job. Do it.
One of the recommendations that was advanced by someone from the Department of Revenue was to lower 3 different key buying groups to 6%, so it would match, and then perhaps tax other additional items. They came out with this, Pythagorean theory, sign chart look-alike.
8 different sales taxes for different kinds of purchases?
Just total chaos, and now they're going to study that.
Okay.
I mean, fortunately, everything's going so well. Why change the thing?
Right.
So, Jen Malik, if you're out there, first of all, folks,
thank you for spending an entire year basically getting nothing done.
I wonder what
That's
the shrimp
really
cocktail budget and the Coca-Cola and the beer budget was just for the meeting.
Starbucks, baby.
Ooh, oh, really? Okay. But listen, one of the things we're going to start next week, I'm going to spend a minute or two each week talking about a business that's owned by a Rhode Island legislator.
Alex and Ani.
I can't ask you to boycott them. That would be illegal. And Tony,
well, as you know, P.O., I'm boycotting boycotts.
Okay. Well, but I want people to make an informed decision when it comes to, we've got an event coming up that we'll talk about it right at the end of the show, where people who are liberty-minded from a variety of different backgrounds are going to come together. And one of the things that we're going to focus on at that is individual businesses that are owned by liberty-minded people. Folks need to start making informed buying decisions. They need to invest their money where their politics are. And you need to buy from people who support liberty. You need to support them to whatever degree economic, even if the business is in Rhode Island. That's a concession I'll make. Okay? You need to support those people. Those people need your help. The other people, to hell with them. All right? If you spend money at Jan Malik's liquor store, then you have nothing but yourself to blame for what's going on in this state. And that's just the first one. All right? There's no reason in the world when there's a plethora of individually owned liquor stores, both here and in Massachusetts, run by people of goodwill, why not buy from them? Don't give this guy a shekel of your dollar. But, that's my advice. This advice is for entertainment purposes only. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the voodoo hotline.
Well, the founding fathers wanted us to be governed by people from our communities.
Right.
Who understood the plight of the working man, the plight of the business owner. So in theory, having business owners who are also legislators should be a plus, because in theory, these people should understand what it's like to run a small business, and they should be looking